In this video today, guys, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin. Whether we are Bitcoin bulls or Bitcoin bears, I don't think matters too much. There is some must-see data that could be a real eye-opener. As we get into this video, if you do find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then do go ahead and subscribe. Tap the bell, select all notifications, and you will be kept up to date with all the videos that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with all of that said, done, and out of the way, let's jump down into the charts, take a look at what is going on with Bitcoin, have a look at this data, and really review what we think is going to happen next with BTC. Okay, guys, so what we're really going to do is we're going to focus in on this weekly chart in a moment. But before we do that, I want to kind of really dive into a bit of Glassnode data. We're going to start off with basically taking a look at the exchange balance for BTC. Okay, so as you can see here, this is Bitcoin and the balance on exchanges and all exchanges. We haven't filtered that down to any one specific exchange. Now, obviously, we have data running all the way from up here in 2012. And for the most part, you can see how exchanges were basically just getting loaded up with Bitcoin all the way up until we actually found that March 12th crash of 2020. This was actually a bit of a turning point for exchanges. This is actually a point where we started to see a steady decline with Bitcoin on exchanges. There was a brief moment in time around May where we actually started to see that increase a little bit, right? So basically once Bitcoin started to have a bit of a sell-off, loads of Bitcoin ended up going on to exchanges, thus increasing the balance of Bitcoin, even though the price was pulling back. And what you actually saw is basically once we actually had kind of got through that worst stage, we actually saw the decrease of Bitcoin on exchanges again. And in essence, what we've seen here is a decrease in balance of Bitcoin. Now, I can do is I can actually just get rid of this and focus in on just 2021 into 2022. This being the May 2021 crash in terms of Bitcoin's price going down and obviously the balance on exchanges going up, right? Really important to understand that's what would normally happen. That's kind of the expectation, what you would expect under normal circumstances you would find. You would see that basically panic selling, Bitcoin goes on to exchanges, thus the balance of Bitcoin on that exchange goes up, even though the price of Bitcoin goes down. And obviously, as we talk about balance on exchanges, this is the value of BTC on the exchanges, right? Not the number of coins, okay? So, and when we actually take a look at it, it's a total here, for example, of 2.6 million Bitcoin on exchanges, right? And obviously where you multiply that by the price and so forth, right? So as that price falls down, you see the volume of BTC actually go onto those exchanges. Now, what actually happened here once we actually set the $67,000 and the $69,000 highs, you actually saw Bitcoin balance, you know, being relatively small, right? Increased a little bit as the price of Bitcoin went up here. You can see that there isn't a huge influx. There's a little bit of influx here in terms of the Bitcoin on exchanges, but nothing too much. And then obviously you start to see that decline. You start to see the Bitcoin price pull back. You also start to see, you know, Bitcoin on exchanges decreasing, which is the opposite of what we know happened previously, as in, you know, price pulls back, Bitcoin goes on, balance goes up. Here we actually see the balance going down whilst the price of Bitcoin goes down, i.e. people are not loading up the exchanges, right? So really interesting kind of report. Now, this is great, and I do like the balance on exchanges. It's a good little report, but we can go one step further. And this report here is our net position change. Now, I really like this one. This one shows you the quantity of Bitcoin on all exchanges, specifically the inflows, the outflows, and what is the net difference of those inflows and outflows. Okay, so if we want to know more Bitcoin went in or more Bitcoin went out on a given day, this is the report that we use, right? And here we can obviously see that during the crash of May, effectively we saw loads of Bitcoin go on exchanges, more than ever left the exchange, right? So for that whole entire period, from the end of April all the way through to the end of June, that few month period, that few months just in between here, the net difference was always positive. There was always more Bitcoin going on than that was leaving, right? And then basically we got to a turning point. More Bitcoin started to leave the exchanges as we were moving from those low areas of 28K up towards the area of $67,000, okay? Then what do we see? Well, we actually start to see a little bit of green here. The net difference changed. Although loads of Bitcoin was leaving, we then started to see more Bitcoin actually load up as we were heading up towards that $69,000. Now, this could be for a couple of reasons. One, there's a bit of a cycle, there's a bit of a rhythm and a rhyme. People hold Bitcoin for a certain period of time, they trade out of it, etc. Maybe they reached their targets, maybe they knew that the things were kind of coming, or maybe these were whales slowly, gradually loading up the exchanges with Bitcoin ahead of potentially maybe pushing the price down to accumulate. Big thing here that's really important, I've spoken about this a few times, is that during this price declining, we haven't seen this influx, right? We haven't seen this huge amount of Bitcoin coming onto the exchanges. Instead, we've seen the opposite. We've seen accumulation occur. We've seen Bitcoin leave exchanges in a net difference, right? So more Bitcoin leaving than coming in, whilst the price is absolutely plummeting, right? That doesn't sound natural to you. If you've got Bitcoin and you're, really scared and worried about it, you're going to load that up onto an exchange and get rid of it. Now, ultimately, what you're seeing here is the price getting affected pretty much from futures, opens, ETFs, etc. And ultimately, you're looking at leverage positions and getting short squeezed and all that kind of stuff. Ultimately, people who are potentially using leverage, retail investors using leverage, they're the ones that really getting affected hard here. But it seems that if you're hodling, you're actually doing incredibly well. You're not succumbing to the fear. And, you've been through this a couple of times. You're pretty much comfortable with it. That's kind of how I'm reading this data. Now, what's really interesting about this is the accumulation that is occurring at these really low prices. Here we can actually see that yesterday we had, let me actually load that up. We had 42,000 Bitcoin actually left the exchange, okay, which is absolutely remarkable, right? So much Bitcoin is actually leaving exchanges. 42,000 Bitcoin more has left and actually gone in. So you're starting to see really steady high numbers starting to come in here. Now, obviously, we have seen higher numbers in the past, but this is actually a really good spike. Obviously, we can see what happened previously, that we are starting to get into those lower ranges where people are more than comfortable now to start stacking up some Bitcoin and put it into cold storage, for example. So really important that we kind of understand that, whether we are bullish or bearish right now, accumulation is happening. We're not seeing mass selling occur from people who have been hodling or retail investors who actually own the assets and getting scared. What you're actually seeing here is basically pockets of liquidity getting mopped up by whales and institutions, and this is pretty much driven from open positions or leverage positions and stop losses, things like that. All these things that people are actually seeing. So although we are bearish in terms of what we are expecting to see and happen next, ultimately the bigger picture is very, very bullish, and this accumulation in exactly that. So as we come into this weekly view, I really wanted to kind of give you a foundation. There is accumulation happening right now, and it's happening for a very key reason. Now, obviously on here, we have some interesting stuff, and I'm going to just zoom on out a little bit. We will be tracking these impulsive moves to the upside. As I said previously in some of my videos, it does appear that this fifth wave is incredibly short, and I think there's a very good reason for this. If I actually just tidy this up a little bit, I'm just going to quickly remove a couple of things, and I'm going to show you what I think is actually something that is going on here. I think our fifth wave hasn't started yet. I think the fifth wave is up there, and I think this is a flat correction or a zigzag pattern going on. I reckon if I just draw it on the bigger time frame here of a weekly chart, it makes it really quite clear to see that this is our A wave down, this is our B wave up, and this will be our C wave down. Now, the B wave is allowed in a zigzag pattern to, for a small amount, go above that initial starting position here. Okay, so not invalidated because of how close it was, as in we were 65, we went to 69. It's a small blip on the radar, and technically it can happen, and it's not too much of a problem for the analysis. Now, what does that mean? Well, because we went higher, there's a probability here that we're not going to go down lower than our low point of our fourth wave so far. Okay, if it was flat, as in we had a double top, for example, then effectively you would actually expect to come right down onto that area. It's also possible that you do just go down a little bit lower, and it's perfectly fine, as long as you don't go, stupidly low and actually reach, some of those extension levels, which I'll go through in a moment. But ultimately, this means that actually we're still inside that fourth wave correction. And as a result of that, we haven't actually taken that next step to the all-time high that will be indicated within our fifth wave. Okay, and the reason for this, if I actually grab hold of that 65k range and we throw that onto that 28k low, the expectation for this fifth wave would be at least a 1.618. We haven't seen that. Okay, so therefore we know that this kind of little blip that we've seen just here, it isn't really in line with the fifth wave. And I've been talking about this for a while, something that didn't make a lot of sense. And Cardano has something very similar. And I do want to kind of hypothesize that maybe even Cardano is also on this kind of zigzag pattern as well. Now, what I do want to kind of say here is that we want to measure this distance. This is our A wave here. Okay, if we actually transpose this over onto our B wave high, in theory, that C wave low comes in down here at $30,000. Now, for anyone else who's been following the daily kind of updates I've been doing with Bitcoin, you know that $31,000 is that area that's resonating incredibly well with other wave counts across different timelines. And this is no exception. This zigzag pattern also seems to come in line with that kind of analysis and that kind of thinking around $31,000. Now, of course, it's also possible that this C wave does come down a little bit lower, does overextend ever so slightly. Again, I would not expect it to go down all too low. You know, I think there's going to be some comfortable area in that $25,000 range. Again, allowing you to feel that little bit of margin of error, right? So for example, we were 65k here, we went to 69. If we were at 28k here, I would expect no more of a drop than 24k, for example. That would be within the scope of, you know, allowing for some wicks to kind of hit some technical points. But for the most part, everything else actually lining up quite nicely. Now, as we think about this zigzag pattern, you know, and we think about where things might go, we don't know how high our fifth wave target is likely to go until we actually reach the bottom. But I think we're getting very, very close to it, as indicated with the amount of accumulation that is going on. More and more Bitcoin is leaving those exchanges. So some really cool and interesting things are going on with the bigger picture for Bitcoin. But let's actually now for a moment actually dive down into what is going on with our hourly, right? What is going to happen right now? I do expect more downturn. I think that is indicated within our weekly chart as well. We are looking to come down towards $31,000. That is kind of where my targets are set. Now, we do have this kind of ABC move to the upside. It actually fell a little bit shorter than my original target of about it was about 39 to 40k. Okay, and in fact there was about 40,700 for that potential C wave high. That's definitely off the cards now, because I think we've actually gone down lower than our original B wave low. So effectively, I think our C wave finishes just up here. This happened yesterday. And then we started this ABC correction down, and which I think in itself could actually be a part of a much bigger you know, ABC down effectively, right? So if I actually see, if I just remove that for a second there, and what I'll do is I'll actually just quickly remove that fib as well, so we get that one off for now. What we're actually looking at here is a potential A wave at this point. If I grab that, and then we transpose that over to the high that we've currently had, which looks like a double top as well on this hourly chart. And this actually then shows us moving down to 33,000. That's the most probable area. It's no guarantee that we're going to move down to that area. We just run the world of probability here, and that's the most probable area. Now, as we think about this area, we can obviously see, okay, we've got to go through a couple of areas of pretty interesting kind of support and resistance, right? So we have $34,000. There's a lot of kind of support to be found in there, and potentially going down lower to that 33. That could be a wick, you know, and then we look for reversal. Now, that stochastic RSI is going to support a move to the downside like this, okay? So we are thinking that the price of Bitcoin is likely to go down within the next few hours. That's kind of a bit of a given. It's kind of what we see here within the technicals. And again, it's very much in line to what is going on with those larger timeframes. And it also means that there's going to be more accumulation occurring, whether this is whales institutions or some savvy retail investors. That's kind of for you guys to kind of figure out and decide. But ultimately, what I'm looking at here is a lot of data that suggests that accumulation is happening, and accumulation is happening before a big run to the upside. The technicals on the larger timeframes are indicating some kind of zigzag pattern that potentially could mean that we're going to be moving up way past $100,000 Bitcoin in the very near future. So a lot of very exciting things to happen here, but lots of pain, lots of bleeding has occurred for retail investors. And again, if you're savvy to it, you could have potentially gotten out earlier. But if you're hodling and you're still hodling, I still think you're doing a fantastic job. I am still hodling. Chris is still hodling. We've actually been accumulating quite a few different assets, be that Chainlink, Polkadot, 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘, Matic, Harmony One, and I think even got some eyes on VeChain as well. So there's lots of potential options out there, lots of fantastic projects that have some fantastic discounted rates as well. And I do expect this market to get a massive reversal in the very near future, whether that is 1 month or 2 months from now. It's hard to say, but the longer term outlook is actually looking pretty good to get this fifth wave high, and where we do then see this bull run officially being over. Right, guys, with all of that said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day. And if you do, then let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.